welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. South Korea's top trade negotiator Yo Han-gu met with U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer in Washington, D.C. in a bid to break the deadlock in the two countries' stalled tariff talks. This comes amid concerns that South Korean car makers could face a disadvantage in the U.S. market after Washington agreed to lower tariffs on Japanese auto imports. Foreign Minister Cho Hyun headed to Beijing this morning for talks with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi. This marks his first visit to China since taking office. Israel says it has begun expanded ground operations in Gaza City, forcing thousands of Palestinians to flee. At the same time, the country also launched an attack on a port city in Yemen, targeting the Houthis. We begin this morning with South Korea's push to finalize the details of its trade deal with the United States. Seoul's top trade negotiator is now in Washington, seeking a breakthrough in the talks. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump says higher tariffs could be imposed on semiconductors and pharmaceuticals than on automobiles. Our An Sung-jin starts us off.
South Korea and the United States are thrashing out the details of their trade agreement. Trade Minister Yo Han-gu has reportedly met with U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer to work out the details of Korea's investment in the U.S. Yo arrived in the U.S. on Monday to discuss the detailed implementation of the trade agreement. The tariff talks come after Industry Minister Kim Jong-kwan and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick had back-to-back high-level talks the previous week. Back in July, the two countries agreed that the U.S. would lower tariffs to 15%, with Korea pledging $350 billion of investment in the U.S. However, a final deal remains elusive due to disagreements over implementation. The U.S. wants control over investment locations and a 90% return after principal recovery, while Korea insists on vetting the companies involved and argues that profit-sharing terms are economically unreasonable. Following recent immigration raids on battery plants in Georgia, Seoul is also pressing for a resolution on visa issues for skilled workers. Yo is scheduled to head back to Korea on Thursday. Meanwhile, starting from Wednesday, U.S. tariffs on Japanese automobiles have been reduced from 25% to 15%. Korea has been raising concerns that this will reduce the competitiveness of Korean cars in the U.S. market. But apart from the automobile tariffs, U.S. President Trump has also hinted at potential tariffs on chips and pharmaceutical products as well. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, Seoul and Beijing's top diplomats will meet in person this week as Foreign Minister Cho Hyun makes his first visit to China since taking office. Cho took off from Seoul earlier this morning from Gimpo International Airport for a two-day trip to Beijing. Before catching his flight, Cho told the press he will meet with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi in their first high-level talks under the Lee Jae-myung administration. Their discussions are expected to include preparations for next month's APEC leaders meeting in Gyeongju, a possible visit by President Xi Jinping, and ways to advance the two countries' strategic cooperative partnership. Cho added that North Korea will also be discussed as regime leader Kim Jong-un visited Beijing earlier this month. So South Korea's top diplomat is expected to sit down for talks with China's Wang Yi perhaps this afternoon. For more on the bilateral relations between Seoul and Beijing, we're joined today by Dr. Kim Dong-soo, professor of the Division of International and Area Studies at Pugyong National University. Professor Kim, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
So this is the first time that Seoul's Foreign Minister Cho Hyun is traveling to China. Could you just tell us more about the significance of this trip?
Yeah, South Korea's Foreign Minister Cho Hyun's first visit to Beijing since taking office carries several layers of significance. First of all, it signals South Korea's foreign policy direction toward China. South Korea is trying to navigate between the U.S. and China. Strengthening ties with China does not mean necessarily turning away from the U.S., but it signals that South Korea wants more independent, multilateral, and regionally balanced diplomacy. Secondly, this visit is likely a part of an effort to reset or de-escalate tensions in Northeast Asia. Also, Seoul has interest in ensuring China remains at least partially cooperative in dealing with North Korea and in maintaining regional order.
Right, and he's there to meet with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, and there are a lot of pending issues between the two countries, such as North Korea issues, Xi Jinping's participation at the APEC meeting here in South Korea, and structures built in the West Sea. So do you think these issues will come up in their talks?
Yes, I believe those issues are very likely to come up in the talks because they touch on the core security, diplomatic, and economic concerns for both sides. Seoul will want to gauge Beijing's willingness to pressure Pyongyang or at least engage more actively in restraining North Korea's weapons program. Xi Jinping's participation at APEC is also very important because having Xi attend would give South Korea's APEC hosting global visibility and signal China's recognition of Seoul's regional role. Beijing may utilize Xi's attendance as a bargaining chip to secure assurance on sensitive issues such as Seoul's alignment with Washington, START, or economic technology cooperation. And also the West Sea structure is a very sensitive issue to both sides. So I believe all the three issues will come up in the talks.
I see. And President Lee Jae-myung earlier said he'll focus on pragmatic diplomacy. And what he meant by that was that he'll put South Korea's national interests first in diplomacy. How should the Lee administration balance relations with China, especially at a time with the growing rivalry between Beijing and Washington?
Since President Lee has pledged to pursue pragmatic diplomacy and place South Korea's national interest first, balancing between Washington and Beijing is not just a tactical choice, but a strategic necessity for Seoul. The security alliance with Washington remains the cornerstone of South Korea's defense, especially against North Korea's nuclear and missile threat. Abandoning or weakening the relations with the United States would be unthinkable. By contrast, China is South Korea's largest trading partner, crucial for supply chains. To pursue balance, first of all, the Lee administration could rest on issue-based differentiation. The administration would work closely with the United States on hard security and North Korean issue, but cooperate with China on trade and regional stability. While maintaining issue-based differentiation, the administration would also keep strategic ambiguity with transparency, which would lead to avoid being forced into binary choices, but to communicate transparently with both sides to reduce mistrust.
Right, a crucial issue to tackle and a crucial task for the Lee Jae-myung administration. And looking ahead, what's your take on the possibility of Presidents Donald Trump and Xi Jinping holding a summit here in South Korea on the sidelines of the APEC meeting later this month?
Taking all the points into consideration, I would rate the possibility of Trump-Xi meeting at APEC in Gyeongju as moderately high, but far from certain. Some meeting, possibly very short, seems plausible, but a full detailed summit with broad agreement seems less likely. Even if the summit is realized, some kind of joint declaration on significant issues would not be likely. Instead, I think it is very likely that some bottom line principles like global security, economic cooperation would be reconfirmed.
I see. I guess we'll have to see how that goes. All right. Professor Kim, thank you for your time and insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And on the local front, President Lee Jae-myung called balanced regional growth inevitable for sustainable development in a cabinet meeting held outside of Seoul for the first time under his administration. Our top office correspondent Yoon Jung-min reports.
Achieving sustainable growth is a key task for the nation, and it is possible through balanced growth. This is according to President Lee Jae-myung as he presided over the weekly cabinet meeting on Tuesday at the Sejong government complex in the administrative city of Sejong for the first time since taking office.
대한민국의 지속적인 성장 발전을 위해서 이제는 국가 균형 발전이 선택이 아니라 이제 운명이 됐다 이렇게 생각이 듭니다.
To shift away from a system heavily concentrated in the capital, the new government is pushing a key national agenda to balance development across other regions, divided into 5 key hubs, including the Seoul metropolitan area, and 3 special governing areas, Gangwon, Jeonbuk, and Jeju.
Currently, we have a balanced growth system that treats regions equally, but it will be converted into concentration and connection, focusing on intensive regional units.
In line with that, the president renewed his pledge to build another presidential office in Sejong, as well as a National Assembly building. And noting Youth Week, President Lee stated the need to boost employment among young people, pointing to the August job report that showed the employment rate of people aged 15 to 29 declining for the 16th straight months.
청년 고용 문제 해결을 위해서는 정부뿐 아니라 기업의 노력도 필요합니다. 청년도 기업도 국가도 모두가 윈윈하는.
During Tuesday's meeting, the Lee administration's 123 policy tasks unveiled last month were confirmed by the cabinet, which will serve as a roadmap for the next 5 years. Among a wide range of areas, key agenda items include introducing 2 4-year presidential terms instead of the current single 5-year term. South Korea also aims to bolster its 3-axis defense system, as well as take back wartime operational control from Washington. On the economy, the authorities will focus on fostering new growth engines involving AI and biotechnology. The government made sure these are carried out in the right direction through a monitoring system, while creating an online platform where ordinary people can pitch their ideas. After the cabinet meeting, Lee stopped by a farm in Sejong to meet and greet young farmers and discussed ways to promote smart farming. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Over in the Middle East, Israel has announced that it has begun ground operations in Gaza as part of an intense new assault on the enclave. And as its forces advanced on Gaza City, the Israeli military also said it struck a port city in Yemen. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump warned Hamas of big trouble if the group uses hostages as human shields. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Tuesday that Israel's forces are operating on several fronts as the conflict expanded in both Yemen and Gaza.
Our forces are operating on several fronts. A few moments ago, our pilots attacked the port of Hodeida in Yemen. This is the main supply port of the Houthi terrorist regime. At the same time, our forces are operating in Gaza City with the goal, of course, of achieving the enemy's defeat, but at the same time also of evacuating the population.
Israeli forces struck the Yemeni port city of Hodeida, targeting what officials described as military infrastructure used by Iran-backed Houthi rebels. The Israeli military claims the port has been a hub for transferring weapons used in attacks against Israel and its allies. In response, Houthi forces activated their air defenses. This comes just a week after Israeli strikes hit the Yemeni capital, Sana'a, killing dozens of people, including journalists. Those strikes followed a Houthi drone attack on an airport in southern Israel. At the same time, Israel has launched a major ground offensive in Gaza City, already devastated by nearly 2 years of bombardment. Residents reported tank incursions in several neighborhoods, while airstrikes swept across the city overnight. Gaza health officials say at least 40 people were killed in the early hours of the assault, most of them in Gaza City. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump warned Hamas militants that they would be in big trouble if they used hostages as human shields.
I hear Hamas is trying to use the old human shield deal, and if they do that, they're going to be in big trouble. They're going to be in big trouble.
The latest escalation underscores Israel's widening military campaign on multiple fronts, with the risk of drawing in more regional actors. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
South Korean high jumper Woo Sang-hyeok won his second career silver medal on Tuesday at the World Athletics Championships in Tokyo. Woo cleared 2.34 meters, finishing just behind New Zealand's Hamish Kerr, who topped the podium with 2.36 meters. Woo also won the silver medal during the 2022 event and was seeking to become South Korea's first outdoor world champion. The 29-year-old is the first South Korean athlete to win multiple medals at the World Outdoor Championships. In other news, researchers here in South Korea have found a way to make biodegradable batteries from coffee grounds. Our Cha Yun-kyung explains more.
1 cup of coffee contains around 15 grams of coffee beans. But almost all coffee beans are thrown away as coffee grounds, except for only around 0.2%. To find a use for it, Korean researchers have found a way to make eco-friendly disposable batteries made out of coffee grounds instead of plastic and metal. Coffee grounds are molded like clay and pressed into a metal mold. Magnesium alloy is used for the anode, molybdenum trioxide for the cathode, and an electrolyte is placed in between to complete the design.
Plastics require quite a complicated structure to make battery frames, while coffee grounds are easy to form with their open cell porous structure.
These eco-friendly disposable batteries have a higher voltage than a dry cell, with the power to light up a 1.7-volt LED for 1 week. Most of all, they are completely biodegradable. Since they are made out of magnesium alloy and molybdenum trioxide, they easily dissolve in water. After placing one in a flower pot for testing, it completely decomposed in rainwater within 2 months, and even new shoots began to grow.
It works perfectly as a battery. Furthermore, there is no need to collect the battery after its use, since it can decompose naturally.
The research team aims to extend the battery life and develop it with eco-friendly power technology for environmental monitoring sensors, such as those used for wildfire prevention. Cha Yun-kyung, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Choi Ji-hee, and this is The World Now. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the U.S. has been revoking visas of foreigners who celebrate Charlie Kirk's assassination. Rubio made the remarks on Tuesday morning local time before departing Israel after he had wrote on his social media on Monday that visa revocations are underway for foreigners celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. He also said visa holders who are cheering on the public assassination of the conservative activist are now under scrutiny. The comments come amid broader threats by the Trump administration to punish alleged hate speech regarding the killing of Kirk last week. Meanwhile, the person accused of killing Kirk, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, made his first court appearance in Utah. Prosecutors confirmed they will seek the death penalty. President Donald Trump said on Tuesday he will attend a memorial service in Arizona for Kirk. Russian President Vladimir Putin has made a rare appearance overseeing the Russia-Belarus joint military exercises. The visit comes as Moscow claims that NATO is already at war with Russia. On Tuesday, Putin visited the Mulino training ground in Russia's Nizhny Novgorod region, where he observed joint military exercises with Belarus as part of the Zapad 2025 operation. He stated that the drills involve approximately 100,000 personnel. Putin addressed the troops, saying that the exercises are to train the unconditional protection of sovereignty, territorial integrity, and defense against any aggression towards the Union state, referring to the alliance between Russia and Belarus. The Russian president had earlier accused NATO of being in a de facto war with his country, citing the alliance's supply of weapons, training, and political support to Ukraine. Poland's new President Karol Nawrocki visited Berlin on Tuesday, meeting with German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier and Chancellor Friedrich Merz. Nawrocki's long-standing demand has been that Germany pay war reparations for the destruction inflicted during World War II, a claim Germany continues to reject, saying the issue was legally settled decades ago. While a spokesperson for Germany's chancellor said the issue of reparations was not discussed in their meeting, it was raised in talks with Germany's president, who said the matter has been legally clarified. Germany's leaders said all claims are closed under international law, citing the 1953 London Agreement and post-war treaties. American acting legend Robert Redford, best known for his starring in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and The Sting, died at age 89 on Tuesday at his home in Utah. A legendary figure of 1970s cinema, Redford also won acclaim behind the camera, his film Ordinary People bringing him Oscars for Best Director and Best Picture in 1980. He also co-founded the Sundance Film Festival, becoming a major force in promoting independent film. Beyond his acting and directing, Redford was also well known for his environmental activism and political engagement. Tributes poured in, with Leonardo DiCaprio saying, "We lost a legend today."
More rain is forecast to impact many parts of the country today. Showers are falling across the central regions in Jeollabuk-do province this morning. And through this afternoon, the heaviest downpours will be focused on southern Gyeonggi-do, Chungcheong-namdo, as well as the capital area. So please take extra care out on the roads. So southern Gyeonggi-do and Chungcheong-namdo provinces could see more than 100 millimeters of downpours. The capital region could see 10 to 60 millimeters through the mid-afternoon. Meanwhile, heat advisories remain in place for the southern regions and Jeju. Temperatures there will feel close to 33 degrees under high humidity. And this afternoon, Daegu and Busan will be getting up to 32 degrees Celsius. Jeju topping out at 33 degrees despite on and off rain in the forecast through tomorrow. Meanwhile, Seoul only gets up to 24 degrees. Once the rain clears, cooler winds will arrive, but do keep an umbrella handy. Another round of nationwide rain is expected between Friday and Saturday.
Now that is all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.